Hello there, clodhoppers. This is Simber Cooker. I'm with Homesteading at Cookery Hoops, and we are today at the Forney Farmers Market. We found a lot of wonderful vendors, some great, there's a grass or pasture-raised pork vendor. There's a vendor that has beef that has minimal grain feeding, mostly pasture-raised. And then there are a lot of artisan crafters. There's a cedar plank guy, two UTA students, University of Texas at Arlington students who have some, they're architect students who have made designs, and then they have someone laser cut wooden pieces for them. And they're just really awesome designs, and we might get a few pictures of some of those a little bit later. But first, I'd like to go ahead and feature a potter that we met today. So hang with me and we'll get you to his booth. Okay, so Mickey Bruce Ceramics.
Just like moving it up and down like that, it gets like everything moving in a spiral kind of thing.
And he said he is on Facebook, so he's just thrown a piece on the wheel, and we will let him take over us and tell us about the product.
Hi, my name is Mickey Bruce. I'm a local potter here in Forney, Texas. Just demonstrating kind of a larger piece of clay here, which I'm going to turn it into the beginning of a pitcher form, and I'm just preparing it to start opening up. So this is called centering and coning. So you kind of have to get it ready before you can actually start throwing the vessel.
So have you found you've built some arm muscles through?
Probably not necessarily through the throwing on the wheel, but carrying clay, sometimes 50 pounds at a time, bags of material. Yes, it's a very physical art form, without a doubt.
And what does adding the water help do?
It lubricates the clay. It makes it to where it's malleable. And wouldn't you know, I've got a huge air bubble in here, which throws the center off. See that little bump? Like right there. It's got a big air bubble in it.
Oh, it's on the outside?
It's actually in the wall right here.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just going to work it out a little bit. There you go. It's almost like a bulge in a tire. Do you see it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's right there.
Right there.
Right there.
Yep. Oops. Let's pan away to Malachi and Justin.
Huge air bubble. Wow.
So where do you source your clay?
Trinity Ceramic Supply. They're in east or west Dallas, almost in Irving, off of 183. Mm-hmm. Down by the Trinity River, the industrial park down there.
Okay.
They've been around for 60 years. They're the only big clay supplier in North Texas. I used to work there before I started teaching.
So do you work with various types of clay, or?
I do. Mostly though, I work with high fire, which is called cold 10, and that's in a gas kiln, not electric. And so I fire up the high temperatures where the pottery is non-porous, dishwasher safe, microwave safe, the whole 9 yards.
So the higher temperature helps achieve that?
It does, absolutely.
Is it like bonding of minerals or something?
Yes, it's like the fusing of silica mainly. So silica is kind of like the glass former. Mm-hmm. And so when you're firing pottery to those high temperatures, the body of the clay actually turns into a semi-soft material while it's like at about 2,200 degrees. Well, I mean, you can look inside a kiln and the pieces will be just glowing red hot.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're almost melted. You know, they're just soft. It'd be almost like if you could poke them, it almost.
So, have you ever been concerned about one of your pieces losing shape while it's in the kiln?
Yes.
Has it happened?
Yes. If things are not well structured, they can deform in the kiln. And it does happen from time to time. The longer you work in clay, probably the less it happens. There's certain things you can do. And the thing about clay is like anything can happen almost any time. There's a lot of variables involved. All the way from the materials in the clay that your supplier made correctly to the materials that go into glazes that you make. I make my own glazes.
Oh, okay.
And, yes, so I use raw materials to make my own glazes.
So, do you just kind of get a feel for it as you get more experience with what has the structure to withstand the temperatures in the kiln?
Yes, and as you get better, and you get more experience, you become very economical in your movements and what you do and how much clay you use. So as you get better, you use less clay for a bigger vessel. So you try to use just the right amount of clay to make whatever you want, and that way, by the time you really learn how, the size of the clay will determine how big something will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you get more proficient, you're able to make thinner walled vessels.
More, better balanced, and you've taught yourself, okay, where to make the moves, how to make the moves. So you don't make like a super heavy bottom or like a real thin top or something like that.
Yeah. So I'm a little OCD and symmetry tends to bug me. Is that something, again, that takes practice to learn?
The symmetry part of it is probably some of the hardest parts about it. As far as especially making something big, because you have to stay in control. Once you make something symmetrical, because of the plasticity of clay, you can alter it and do other things with it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the potter's wheel sometimes is just a tool to a means, or to an end, sorry. A tool to act as to get you where you need to go.
Yeah.
And then you can do something else with it. So in other words, it's, you can just use it to make forms. And then you can alter later. That air bubble that was in there is coming back. So what it does is, as I'm pulling up the walls, it's pushing the air bubble. Here, there's no air bubbles. I'm pulling up. There it is right there.
So it doesn't hurt it to adjust the speed?
Once it gets to a certain point, I really don't increase the speed anymore. I'll slow down as the piece actually goes on, as it gets taller. Especially as you get up to the top like that. Okay, so the air bubble's in here. So I just cut it off and
See, I like those kind of cheats.
Exactly. Hey, yeah.
So I have to ask you, at this point in time, do you have in your mind what it is you're going to make with this, or is it still a fluid concept?
This is going to be like a cylinder, and that's going to turn into more of like a pitcher form, very similar to that one.
Okay, this one here?
Yes.
Okay.
Now the air bubble kind of threw me off a little bit, but there's still a couple in there. I'm just going to keep throwing until it becomes some kind of issue. If it messes me up, then start over.
So what would happen if an air bubble is in a piece and it gets fired in the kiln?
Well, usually it's okay, just as long as it's not a huge air bubble. The main thing is about moisture, because if there's moisture in the clay when you go to fire it and it gets above 210 degrees, then water starts to steam, and then it builds up pressure inside the kiln, and then it pops like a mini explosion.
Okay.
Yeah, and it'll just shatter the piece before it gets a chance to get hardened.
Now, would you have multiple pieces in the kiln at the same time?
Yes.
And if it shatters, would it harm other pieces?
It very well could.
Okay. So it's always a gamble.
You just want to make sure that things are very dry.
Okay. So right here, you're letting them dry on the table. How long do you let them air dry before you put them in a kiln?
Well, like today, it's so moist and rainy and stuff, they could probably sit out for hours and not dry all the way.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not too concerned with those right now. Now, if it was hot, the rims would be getting white, and they would have already started to dry. If it was hot, like June usually was this time of year.
So is there a time frame that's important to fire it after it's been made? Like, can it go too long air drying before you fire it?
No. All it's going to do is just get dry.
Just dry?
Yeah, you just want it to lose all its moisture.
Okay.
Before you go to fire it. And that's called a bisque. That's a bisque fire. So that's before you put any glaze on it. So what you want to do is you want to get it hard enough to the point where you can handle it and put the glaze on it without it falling apart because of the water that's in the glaze.
So you fire it and then you glaze it and refire it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then to a hotter temperature with the glaze.
Okay. And can you add multiple colors of glaze on at the same time, or do you have to do them?
You can, and sometimes glazes don't mix necessarily. Sometimes they make each other run. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times you can design, you find glazes, and you test combinations with other glazes, and you find out which glazes can work the best with each other. Mm-hmm. And so that's a good way to create a palette. A really good palette is to have glazes that are compatible with each other.
Okay.
Sometimes they're not compatible.
Gotcha. So
you're asking very good questions, by the way.
Thank you.
Excellent.
So I know we talked about this earlier, but for our viewers, what got you into pottery?
Went back to school when I was 35, and I was going to teach social studies or history, and I needed to pick up one more class, and that was a ceramics class, and just fell in love with it. And 6 weeks later, I was
changing major.
Yeah, I changed my major to fine arts after 6 weeks of my first semester back in school, and just fell in love with it. So I've run with it. Now I teach art at North Forney High School, and I try to make as much pottery as possible.
So do you ever feel like I just want to get away from these students and go throw some pots for a while?
Yes, I want to sell everything, move to New Mexico, and throw pots for the rest of my life. Yes.
Very nice.
And that someday will happen. So that's the plan.
Awesome.
So hopefully that'll happen. That is the dream.
So is there a particular style that you prefer in your pieces, or do you like an eclectic mix?
I like an eclectic mix because, it's hard for me to get just stuck on one kind of style. I need change all the time. I like the variety. Now, I do have certain shapes that I kind of like my go-to shapes. Just because
She's making a big one.
it's kind of like a palette, you get used to the things that you like to eat. These are the things that I like to make, certain shapes, because they're pleasing to me, and that's it.
Right. And
why do you wear this?
What?
Why do you wear this?
What, my shirt? Oh, I'm just wearing clothes so I can get them dirty. I don't have to worry about these.
And they don't care. And how do you get the stuff off?
What, the clay?
Yeah.
You just wash it off. comes off with water. Sponges help. See there? Comes right off.
So it's fun to play with.
Yes, it is. It is definitely fun to play with.
Oh God. And tables also help too. Oh God.
So it's funny, as we were talking, this thing actually ended up being something else than I first intended.
What is it?
It's kind of a vessel. I'm gonna just call it some kind of pitcher form, or could just be a vessel. I could add a handle to it and a spout. I could put like little handles on each side, and it could be a big
Trophy?
Yeah, it could be a big trophy. It could be a big vase, or you could put your umbrella in it. I don't know,
Let's make it bigger and then you can make your umbrella.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Right. Let me change my angle here.
How is it still going?
It's just in the same place. Whoa! I made it go fast. Let's leave it about right there.
You like it when it goes fast?
Well, when it starts getting big like this, I want to make sure I keep it kind of slower. That way I can keep control over it. It doesn't go crazy.
Why do you make it so big?
I don't know. I just like making some forms that are big sometimes.
Have you been doing this all day?
Just for maybe an hour and a
Does it feel
half.
good?
It's soft.
We have made clay before. You have to be gentle with it.
You have to be very gentle with it. You're absolutely right.
And then you will break it. Because if you don't be too gentle with it, it will fall down, then you can't use it anymore.
Exactly.
Then it will break.
And then it does nobody any good, does it? If it does that.
I'd be careful with my clay.
So the danger of it going faster when it gets thinner walled is if it gets off balance, it can just totally throw it.
Oh yeah. No, I've seen some things launched before. Well, just accidentally, like someone comes up and just step on the paddle, and it's on a fast speed setting. Yeah, I've seen some people fly across the room.
Bang!
No doubt.
It is a big.
And at that point, is it interpretive art, or do you just reuse the clay?
Oh yeah, you just go and scoop it up, and you can just reuse it. What's called. Well, it's kind of like kneading the clay. It's called wedging.
Called what?
So, wedging.
Wedging? Okay.
So you're wedging the air out of it, which is just like kneading dough. Exactly. Except the clay is a little heavier. It takes a lot of effort.
This is the part where you cut part of it, the excess away from the base?
Yeah. So this is just the beginning of the foot, and so later on, after this sets up and gets a little firmer, then I'll be able to cut it and I'll flip it upside down, and I have these trimming tools that I'll actually kind of trim. It'll look something like this, but it'll act as a foot. So it's not just flat on the bottom.
So when you add accents, do you do those after you've removed it from the wheel?
Yes, after it's firmed up and stuff, then I can alter it even more.
Okay.
Because right now it being so soft, like if I were to add a handle to this, I would let it soften or firm up quite a bit before I'd go handle it again. Just because it was just more rigid.
So like the lines in this,
Yes.
you would add afterwards.
Yes, which would be called at the leather hard state. So it's actually kind of like soft leather hard, where you can still bend it, but it's firm enough that you can handle it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like the ridges here right under the lip, that's done while it's on the wheel.
That's done while it's on the wheel. Exactly.
Okay. Were you able to? Right there. Cool.
You're absolutely right. Great questions. Very perceptive.
Well, part of my problem is I have a little bit of interest in a lot of things, and pottery is one of the things I've considered, but our house is already way too full with other things.
Well, if you ever, get the notion to take some classes, there are short-term classes at what's called the Creative Arts Center in Dallas. It's just off of Ferguson and 30 in East Dallas. I used to teach some classes, and I know the people up there, they're really great. There's some really great artists and potters and people up there, and their terms are like 6 weeks long. So that's sometimes doable, and if you think about it in the future, after kids get a little older and get a little more self-sufficient and all that, and you want to tend to yourself a little bit, it's a really great place.
So if someone were wanting to get into pottery, what would you recommend? Well, don't hit yourself in the head, little dude. What would you recommend for like a starter kit? Something that's economical but can still give them the quality that they need to learn.
Okay, first what I would do is that I would definitely take a class first, no matter what, because you may think you might like it, but you never know until you actually do it. And then once you do, you've got a purpose at that point, and so one thing leads to another. And so first thing that I would do is get a kiln or access to a kiln, because if you make a lot of work and you don't have anything to fire it in, then it's not going to do you any good. So I'd sit around and end up getting broken because it's not fired yet. So the best thing to do is to either find access to a kiln or get a small kiln, which can run off of like a dryer circuit, 220 or 240 dryer circuit. So, and you can find them on Craigslist. Probably the best place to go and to talk to somebody about it is Trinity Ceramic Supply. There's a guy there named Connor Muldoon. He's always got used kilns, and he fixes them up to the point where they're ready to go. And he can help you out with all the particulars as far as the circuit in your house and things like that.
For people that don't live locally, would he have shipping options available, or is he pretty much?
How far away?
I'm just saying for like our viewers, if they were out of state, say.
We've had delivery out of state. When I was there, Steve Sprinkle, he does their delivery for them, and for the right price, he will deliver out of state. So
and what was the name
we do freight. They would do freight charges. Yeah, he would be the contact for Connor at Trinity, and then he arranges it for Steve.
That's okay.
Matter of fact, we've gone to Oklahoma before for kiln deliveries. In West Texas.
And what's his company's name again?
Well, the company's name is Trinity Ceramics.
Okay.
And that's the one-stop shop for anything ceramics in North Texas, and for a long way.
And do they have a website that someone can just Google?
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah. They've been around for a long time. They made the clay that I'm using right now.
So they actually mix the clay?
They do. They have what's called pug mills, and it's this huge machine that spits out about 10,000 pounds an hour. So, yeah.
So now that you finished that piece, will you tell us really quick some different events coming up, places people can...
Yes, and I wish I had my absolute dates down correctly, but it is the second weekend in October. I think it's like 14th, 15th, or 16th, or 17th at the Edom. It's in Edom, Texas, and it's the Edom Festival of the Arts. There will be multiple mediums there, glass blowers, glass slumping, jewelry, musicians, knife makers, potters, all different kinds of stuff, painters, good food. So that's in the second weekend of October, and then the weekend after that, my wife and I will be at Texas Clay Festival in Green, Texas, which is just outside of New Braunfels and San Marcos in that area. Wonderful place to go. 60 Texas artists, clay artists. You'll see once in just every single artist there is wonderful. All handmade stuff, to sculptural to functional wear. They also have free demonstrations all through both days on Saturday and Sunday. So that's the third weekend in August, October. Like I said, I wish I had the dates memorized, but I don't at this time.
Now, you mentioned people can find you on Facebook, right?
Yes, and that is Mickey Bruce Ceramics. You can also find my wife at lesliebruce.com. She has her website, and I'm working on my own website right now.
Awesome. So y'all will be having postings of those events?
We certainly will.
Okay. And if somebody were interested in a custom piece, is that something they could contact you for, potentially?
Yes. We can talk about things like that. A lot of times we'll show people what we have, if that might fit. And we kind of do it on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes we do, sometimes it may not work out. For what we do, for our resources.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what would be the best way for people to contact you? Would it be through the Facebook?
It would be through the Facebook, and if you make a liking or posting or a request or something like that, then I can get back to you. I'm pretty sure I'll have my email address posted there, so that's available. So you can email me at mickey7bruce@gmail.com. That's mickey7bruce@gmail.com. If you need to email me for any reason.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we are excited to use one of the pieces that you made as part of our decor in our home. And it's always fun to be able to buy a piece and talk with the person that actually made it.
Absolutely.
That's what makes it so great.
Well, I'm very happy that you have a piece of mine that hopefully you're going to use. They are meant to be used.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you.
Are you trying to see if I'll squirm?
I am doing a video, by the way.
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
We are going to put music over that, right?
Nope.